All right, guys, happy Friday. It's going to be a happy Friday. Don't worry. We've got tons of funny content coming up. But first, I wanted to ask you guys if I'm the only person that doesn't feel like Trump has this election totally in the bag. Like, I'm wondering if conservatives might be deluding themselves a little bit with hope. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what's been on my mind. Beyond Taylor Swift, by the way, the Democrats are now rolling out John Legend to remind people in Springfield, Ohio, that they should not care that they've just received a 20% population increase in the form of Haitian migrants who are, some say, eating the dogs and eating the cats. Plus, Shannon Sharpe, I don't know if you saw this. This is a oopsies. He's a former NFL player, Hall of Famer, podcaster, altogether well-liked guy. Well, he accidentally went live on Instagram while engaged in some sexual relations. Should he be punished for this audio porn by accident thing? All that coming up on Candace. All right, so if you're a good detective, according to Sherlock Holmes, you always pay attention to the dog that didn't bark. So the thing that wasn't said, the voice that you didn't hear. And I'm kind of interested now in the dog that didn't bark on debate night. Have you thought about that? Like something that was an obvious topic that should have come up that totally didn't come up. We should pay attention to it because it's a clue. Because if you remember, to jog your memory about the 2020 election debate, well, that dog had a very loud bark. So let's rewind. This is an old clip, an old montage of debates during the 2020 election cycle. Take a listen.
As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day? What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In 8 states, election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified?
President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
It's super interesting to look at that in the retrospect. They just knew what was coming. I am one of the people, doesn't think, but knows, obviously, that the FBI was involved on January 6th. And they knew that that was coming because they knew that they were radically transforming the way that we voted, and that they had thought of that as a mechanism to rig our elections. I will never change my mind on the fact that the 2020 election was rigged and they used COVID as an excuse. And they were preparing us, but you'll accept the results. And you're expecting that it could take a very long time for us to count the votes as we determine how many votes it is that we need to beat Trump, and then magically find them because we've got all of these mail-in ballots that we can just mass produce. Yeah. Well, it's interesting to think about that, this insistence. They were talking about fair elections, peace. That was what they cared about. Peaceful transfers. Everything needed to be fair. And yet you would think that if peace was something that they were after, and they were worried about elections being fair, that they would still be concerned about that now in 2024. And here is the dog that did not bark during this week's debate. Do you guys remember this taking place just 62 days ago?
We see something that said, take a look at what happened.
It has been just 62 days since a lone shooter almost assassinated President Trump. You want to talk about fair elections? Well, the person that was just about to secure the Republican nominee was supposed to be dead. He was supposed to be murdered. And we were all supposed to be watching it because, like I said, they wanted all of us to be watching him live on stage. They wanted us to watch him being shot because it was supposed to be a mass psychosis event. It was supposed to make us all modify our behavior in what way. And it's important to realize how strange it is that this never came up during the debates. January 6th came up during the debates, but not the fact that somebody who more than half of the nation is behind and wanted to be their nominee was almost killed. They didn't ask Kamala Harris a single question about that. And that strikes me as remarkably strange. In fact, it strikes me as remarkably strange that we've moved on from this story so quickly. The media is not speaking about it. There's a reason for that. And I think it's incredibly compelling and powerful that Melania Trump, who rarely speaks, has used her voice to underscore how strange it is that we have moved on from this most important narrative. Take a listen to her.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
Yeah, I'm getting real sick of this idea that everything is just a remarkable security failure when these sorts of events take place. A remarkable security failure is what took place, which is something that could have led to a civil war, something that would have radically transformed this election. A remarkable security failure. Quite interestingly, Richard Blumenthal, he's a congressman up in Connecticut, has spoken out about how strange it is. And he says that the public is going to be quite appalled and shocked when more information about this assassination attempt is made public. Take a listen to what he had to say yesterday.
I think the American people are going to be shocked, astonished, and appalled by what we will report to them about the failures by the Secret Service in this assassination attempt on the former president. But I think they also ought to be appalled and astonished by the failure of the Department of Homeland Security to be more forthcoming, to be as candid and frank as it should be to them in terms of providing information. And we are going to absolutely insist on the truth and the whole truth in documents and testimony as members of the United States Senate, but also as citizens.
What did you learn new today when you said they're going to be appalled?
I'm not going to go into what we have learned in specifics. I'm giving you my reaction, and we will have a report very, very soon that I think will absolutely shock the American people, or it should, about the lapses and lags in the protection that was afforded that day and the breakdown in communication, failure in responsibility.
Is that report coming today or tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
Is that report coming out tonight or tomorrow?
No.
Who does the Department of Homeland Security work for? When were they established, all of these states, departments? Who do the CIA work for? I mean, we've all kind of come to the conclusion that's obviously not for the American people, but we do know what they serve, what interests they serve, and their interests might be an answer to the question of why the state wanted to murder Donald Trump. That's because that's what happened, obviously. The state wanted Donald Trump to be assassinated, and the reasons that they wanted Donald Trump to be assassinated was because they did not want him to secure the Republican nomination. So let's run it this way. What would have happened if Donald Trump was assassinated? Who would have clinched the Republican nominee? Well, if what we know is that what they care about, the CIA, of course, is just international dominion, constantly going to war. The military-industrial complex is what we are referring to. They want nonstop war. And you go, okay, well, why can't Trump be president? Well, because Trump was averse to war. We know that. He ran and he spoke about bringing our troops home. Even this week on the debate stage when he was asked about the Ukraine question, he danced around it a little bit, and you could sense that he does not believe that we have any business in Ukraine. That is problematic for the military-industrial complex. because they're always itching to go to war because they have incentives that are not made public. We don't know what it is, like I said, that we're doing in the Middle East, why we are nonstop bombing the Middle East. We have no idea why we got involved in Ukraine, but we do know that these things were able to happen quickly under a Biden presidency. And the reason for that is because Biden is effectively dead, okay? And that's who they want in office. They want somebody that they can severely blackmail, someone who's got skeletons in their closet, someone like a Emmanuel Macron type character who's married to a man and has been involved likely in some other interesting stuff. And they go, okay, well, you can be the person that is going to be the front, because that's all it is. It's supposed to be performative. We're supposed to think the president is leading the country. Biden clearly has not been leading the country. That is abundantly obvious to the entire world at this moment. So who is? Like I said, they just want a person that's going to do what they say, not somebody like Trump. Trump's not good for that. Okay. Trump's not going to take that sitting down. He's not going to, when someone says, well, we're just going to war and pull the people out of Afghanistan tomorrow. It doesn't matter how many American troops die. We want them out so that we can immediately transfer the money that was going into Afghanistan over to Ukraine. And that's what happened within like a week. It's unbelievable when you take a look at the finances. It's not somebody that's going to ask questions. Okay. They don't need somebody like Trump in office. They need someone that's going to go along with the show. And so they wanted to kill Trump. I'm not buying this lone shooter narrative. I'm completely done with believing in any of these lone shooter narratives after having read that book that I tell everybody to read, Chaos. You need to learn about MKUltra. You need to learn about all of these programs to brainwash people to commit crimes. That is a reality. They wanted to brainwash people to commit crimes. And again, the most heinous crimes, when you go back and you reflect on all of the murders and all of the serial killers that you think you know about, there is always going to be an angle that involves our government, which should terrify you. Okay, but be happy that it provides clarity about what's actually happening in this country. So Donald Trump is not the establishment's candidate. That is abundantly clear. That is abundantly obvious. We should recognize that. And they are so desperate not to have him in office that they tried to kill him. Because if they had been successful and they had killed him, well, then what was right around the corner was the Republican convention. And it would have been an open convention. This means that the Republican delegates would have been able to decide, oh my gosh, well, it's not Trump, so we're just going to decide who we want to fill his shoes. This would have been an effective coup, just like they did with Biden. It would have been an effective coup. And who would they have picked? Well, the person who had dropped out before and who had rather conspicuously announced that she was suddenly speaking at the RNC was Nikki Haley. And Nikki Haley is about as pro-military industrial complex as it gets. She was the favored neocon pick. In fact, she took a very long time for her to even drop out. All she talks about is war, 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 bomb, bomb, bomb. Woman's never met a war that she did not like. She would have been a perfect candidate. And then it would have been a two-horse race, and the deep state would have been very happy. So why am I worried about the Trump campaign? Well, because if they are so desperate to not have him be in office that they will murder him, then have the establishment media bury the story, so much so that it's not even asked about on the debate stage, then it means that they already have a plan that is in action right now. And I am concerned that the Trump campaign is being squeezed right now by neocons. I do. I believe it. You think about all of the people that were pro-Hillary Clinton conservatives, pro-Hillary Clinton, so much so never Trump that they were willing to have Hillary Clinton be in office. Now, why would that be? Because there is no left and right when it comes to the military-industrial complex. This is how you get someone like Meghan McCain saying that she's voting for Kamala, because they're voting for the same exact interests. People that have investments, Lockheed Martin, people whose families have been enriched by never-ending wars, by selling out the American people, they are okay, whether it's a left candidate or a right candidate, so long as it is a war candidate. And a war candidate is who they want in office, and I think they're squeezing him. I think it's weird that all these people that were so never Trump are now the most vocal Trump supporters right now. And I think he's capitulating to them because his people around him are telling him, this is great, this is a sign that you're bringing people in. But in reality, I think that they got smart. They realized that going never Trump didn't stop him from getting into the White House in 2016. And so they instead tried to have their candidate beat Trump. And we tried DeSantis, we tried Nikki Haley. That didn't work. And so now they're just going to pretend that they support him. And in reality, they're supporting him by, I think, pulling him away from his prior MAGA isolationist, more isolationist beliefs. And I genuinely believe this. I believe that this is an intentional infiltration. I believe that they are creating an illusion. I don't even know if these people are actually going to vote for him behind closed doors. I truly believe that their strategy here is to kill him with kindness, and it concerns me. Let me tell you, I obviously am hoping that I am wrong. I hope that I am wrong. This has not been a beautiful hand that we are watching being played by the neocons who really want Kamala Harris to win, because she is someone who has proven that she can be controlled and she will do whatever it is that they say. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And I hope with everything in me that Trump beats Kamala in November. But I do not think that in a circumstance where they are not even mentioning that he was almost killed, something that would be talked about nonstop every day, a dark day in democracy. We're talking about January 6th, and this man was almost shot on stage. What does that signal to you? They want to move on from it because they have another plan that they want to implement, and they want the people to forget about the fact that the most violent event since JFK got shot in broad daylight almost took place in this country. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I have to express my apprehensions. All right, guys, I want to remind you about preborn, because according to a recent report, Planned Parenthood continues to rake in billions despite dwindling clients. The biggest takeaway is that Planned Parenthood is generating vast profits, including millions in taxpayer funding. With preborn, we get to actively steal their clientele, meaning we get the opportunity to rescue the babies that they are trying to kill. Preborn operates in a very slim budget, rescuing over 200 babies' lives every single day with no government funding. Preborn's network of clinics are situated in the darkest corners of the nation, competing head-to-head with the abortion giants, and they need our help now more than ever. When you donate just $28 to Preborn, you will offer a free ultrasound to an expectant mother that is caught in a crisis. Because once she hears that heartbeat and sees that precious life, her baby's chance at life more than doubles. So sponsor a precious baby's life today. Your tax-deductible gift will go directly towards saving babies' lives. You just dial